Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Today I want to show you something very cool, and that is how to write a breakdown. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this project over here. As you can see, this project is in its early stages of development. We basically just have the first part of the track, and I've laid out the structure of where I want the track to go next, but I haven't written that part yet. Now what this means is that I have an idea of where I want to go with the break. I also have some creative energy for the break in particular. That is why I wanted to record this video now. I have some ideas that I want to try to implement today. And the main idea is going to go into a break from this position over here. I'm going to determine later how long that break is going to be and what the break is actually going to sound like. But for now, we're just going to start writing. And the way that we have to do that is we have to write this part over here, where we have the final drop before we go into the break. The reason for that is when it comes to these kind of things, it is often very important how you go into the breakdown to determine what type of breakdown that you're going to get. So I'm just copying over my kick over here. And then I'll copy over the bass line as well. This is a very progressive style kick and bass. So that is what we're working with. And what I'm going to need for this breakdown to work, the idea that I have in my mind, is some energetic synth. So I'll have to make that, which I'm going to do real quick. I'm going to try to keep this short, so I'm just going to use Serum over here. So I'm just going to add a tones from my tones pack to a saw wave here. See if we can find a nice gritty sound out of that. That is already sounding cool, but I think we can get some cooler sounds by randomizing here. I think we can do some cool stuff with that. Maybe a little bit of distortion on there. That is sounding cool. Let me just remove the lower frequencies that we don't want. I want to add a phaser here for the movement, which is going to be pretty important in this sound. So that is what it's going to sound like now. As you can hear, we have this kind of constant movement that is happening through the macro that we set up, as well as the phaser, which is a little bit of a longer movement, and we're going to make use of that by going into the break in an interesting way. So the way that I'm going to do that is just duplicating this part over 4 times, so that we get something like that, and then we can play with the macro. Maybe kind of like a sidechaining idea here. It just goes up like this. Can just duplicate this over and set the points up more and more. Maybe a bit of filtering going up like this as well. And then we'll have a delay on that. Nice long delay like this. I think that's cool, but it needs to be a better fill. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the kick and bass that we have, and I have this rack already over here that is filtering the kick and bass, stereo widening it, and then saturating it a little bit. So I'm just going to set an automation up for that. On the bass line, we want it to be right here because the bass is not playing there. Actually, probably want it to go like this, right after the bass stops. And then for the kick, of course, we don't want it there. We want it in another place. So what I'll probably do is have it go on the offbeat right about here. So that this is still a normal kick. And then here it turns on and it goes filtered, saturated, and stereo widened as well. In terms of the rhythm, that is what I like for the fill. I just have to check if it also works with the rest of the drop. I like that, but the feedback could be a little bit higher because my idea is going after 8 bars back into a kick and bass, but also filtered so that we can build up with that filtering. We're just going to make sure that this turns off again over here and over here. And then we'll have our kick and bass over here. Let's say that we build up for maybe 16 bars here. That is just kind of like a standard measurement, so that would work. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my kick and bass filtering rack, which is just, as you can see, Simplen over here with the macros already preset for me in this rack format over here. And that means that we can start filtering. I have the low pass go up over time. Of course, make sure that it goes back all the way up here. And then the high pass is also going to come up already. And over time also move up like this. And of course it has to come back down. We'll put this on the baseline as well. Okay, that's cool. One of the things that we can do is have it go quieter over here and then have it come back. And we do that through just having feedback higher than 100% here. As you can see, I just added a pitch shifter and I also added a little bit of reverb that goes up in time. And that is just so that we get a nice rising effect in here. Now what I want to do is I want to actually continue this idea. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to probably record this part because that is usually easier. As you can hear, we have a big feedback loop in here, meaning that if I click anywhere in here, we get a sound like that, which is not very pleasant to listen to. So that is why I recorded it. What that means is that we can turn this off over here and we can remove all of the effects that we had before. So this stuff over here as well. This is all part of the break 2. So we can just, I'll like to leave it maybe in a group here so that if I need to, I can still tweak it for now. Of course, once I'm exactly happy with the breakdown in terms of how it works in the production, I'll usually commit this kind of stuff to audio anyway. To commit to audio, what I like to do is consolidate this. That way we get a new file and we can see if we set this to -13, it will be very close to the volume that it was set before, but now you can see the waveform. And this has some positives in there in that you can make changes. Say that I want to have this 5 dB louder so that it's a little bit bigger here. What we can do is crossfade between that. And now one of the benefits is that I don't have to play from here to get the proper delay effect over here because it's already in audio. Another thing that I can do is take this part over here and maybe duplicate it over. Maybe like this. Maybe one more over here to finalize that idea. And then we just take our kick and bass over here. In this case, I take the kick. And I have to open up the group to take the bass as well, because otherwise it copies over the automation, which I don't want. And this is how we're going to go into the drop. Maybe it's cool to have a little bit of a high pass in here to keep the movement in that last part. Let's add a drum fill in here so that we have something that actually guides us into the drop itself. Either I like to go with a Kashmir drum over here, just in the fills, maybe something acoustic. It's a little bit strange because it has to fit with this rhythm over here from this element, of course. But I think maybe something like this would work. Maybe the high pass filtering is not exactly what I want here. I'm going to take the reverse crash that I already have in the project and I'm going to add that to it. See if that helps with the flow here. Okay, I like that. Of course, we need a little bit more to keep this interesting. One of the things that I'm going to do is maybe slightly overdrive the kick and the bass while it's in the break here. So we can just set up a setting here. And just have that come in over time. As you can see, I also have a snare roll over here. It is probably a good idea to have the volume go down a little bit over here so that we get some extra impact from the kick and bass when it hits again. So probably minus 4 dB would be okay. And of course, I have to copy this also over to the bass. This is a consequence of having the kick and bass in separate groups, in separate tracks. What a lot of people do is they group their kick and bass together and then you're often basically incentivized to process them as one unit. Now, personally, I see them as two individual ideas and two individual elements that both have a unique function. And sometimes I like to use different filtering or different volume or other effects that are different between the kick and the bass on different parts. But I also just like to treat them as separate elements in the mixing stage as well. That makes my life a whole lot easier. So for that reason, my kick and bass is personally never grouped together. Like the kick is, as you can see, part of the drum group, and then we have the bass, which is part of the bass group. Now, of course, this isn't better or worse, this is just a different workflow. But one of the consequences of that workflow is that if I make a modification to one part, so to the kick, I have to sometimes just copy that over to the other part. So in this case, we added a volume automation over here. I have to copy paste that over here as well. Or otherwise, these two elements in this particular part of the track wouldn't be in sync with each other. Let's get a riser while it's playing. The acoustic fill is still a little bit loud, but we can add some supportive elements under this, maybe something like an interesting pad that also helps here in the part where there's not much more happening. Okay, so it took me a little while to find the right patch and to create the idea, but this is what I have. As you can hear, we have this kind of cool moving texture that becomes shorter and shorter because of the pitch bend. And the whole idea is that this is an Omnisphere patch based on a sample over here. And then I have a big reverb after that and then an OTT to really glue everything together. And then we just have a high pass over here. And the way that I'm pitch bending it up is through the MIDI, which is just a simple pitch bend. And then inside of Omnisphere, what you have to do is you have to set in the main here, the up range to 24. So that it goes up 2 octaves, which is also what our other effect is doing. It is still very loud and very in your face right here. And of course, this is meant to be like a background element. I want to maybe delay it out a little bit so that we cover a little bit more of the empty areas towards the end there. We can just set up a delay like a 1/4, which is a little bit longer than usual, but that should cover it nicely. And we can even have that come in from the very start here when it's still a normal pad. I'm just going to mix this in a lot lower here. I like the little high-pitched delay effect that we're getting from that, but I want to turn that off when the drop actually starts. Now there's a few more things that we need to do. We basically have the main idea down right now. What we could do is maybe find a few more vocals, find a few more drum loops, find a few more one-shots that we can place in here, maybe even a few more effects. But of course, I don't really have the time to show you everything. So what I am going to do is I'm going to link you to a video that talks about the effects. And in that video, I actually explain how I put the effects in a different break of mine. And then there's also a video that talks about one-shots. Unfortunately, that is talking about one-shots in the drop, but you can apply the same techniques that I explained in that video into this problem as well, if you want to add extra one-shots into the breakdown of your tracks. What I am going to do is show you some of the vocals and some of the drum loops, as those are topics that I haven't covered yet. So with the vocals, what I like is vocal pads, basically serving the same function as this pad does over here, just in the form of a choir vocal. So again, Omnisphere is really useful for that kind of stuff. So you just go to human voices over here and you can see you have all kinds of different choirs and stuff like that. So maybe we want a female choir for this, and you want like a soft M sound. Bit of a nice darkness into it, maybe even an octave lower, which is almost unnaturally dark. Can kind of function as a baseline as well for this part. I don't think I wanted to do a melody, but I just want to give it a try to see what it sounds like. If I do like some actual chords like this. Maybe it goes up here would be nice. And then that would go here. Okay, that is all sounding cool. Again, I'm going to go up 24 semitones here. We have the pitch shift. I will implement that as well. So the pitch shift right now is starting directly from the point where the melody stops, which might not be the best idea. I like where this is going in terms of idea. I was able to mix this pad sound into there a little bit better. The way that I did that is by controlling the volume over here, so that it just fades out a little bit before we go into the actual part that is the build-up, so that the drastic pitch shift that we hear in this part of the sound isn't as drastic as it was before. So I think it's time to add a few drum loops into this, and the way that I'm actually going to do that is just copying over most of the drum loop that we already have for the drop itself. Just the hats would be nice. And then again, we'll have to filter this in. I like to do this with an auto filter so that we get a little bit of saturation on there. If we use one of these other modes over here, a little bit of drive is usually nice. A little bit of resonance. Maybe we want to go up to, let's say, 7K and starting from down below here. I like that. We do need a few effects to kind of hide some of the things that we've done. So I am going to add a few in there so that you get a little bit of an example of how I do that. There is one effect in here that should be perfect for this. This is like a noise effect kind of thing. It's nice. Some downlifters in here are very, very long, and that is the one that I'm actually looking for. I thought it would be this one, but it maybe, actually. Yeah, this lines up. So maybe this is the one that I'm looking for. I have a downlifter that fits exactly when it's warped into 16 bars, and that is really nice if you're doing a 16 bar buildup. So you can just flip it around, and then you get the riser for it. That sounds nice. One of the other things that I want is a big impact over here. So we'll find ourselves a nice cashmere impact that usually works well. This has a nice sweep in it as well. Something like that will be cool. Lower its volume. And then in this particular track, we also have like a cool one-shot thing that we can put in front of it like this. I like everything about that except maybe the pad and the riser here. So let's just keep it like this and see where that goes. And then we get a break that sounds something like this. Now, of course, as you can hear, it is still very much an idea. I haven't done any mixing. You can hear, for example, that the synth has a lot of low end. This stuff doesn't really come out towards the end of the build-up. There's a lot of noise over here towards the end here. So there's still a lot to do. And of course, the transition into this part as well is something that I need to fix. But I mainly just wanted to show you how you get an idea for this kind of stuff and how you basically build out the initial plan of the breakdown. Of course, there's going to be many, many months of iterations that I'm going to get over this. Usually it takes me maybe, let's say, half a year to finalize a song fully. And in that time, I'll sometimes just completely rewrite the breakdown or make small changes every once in a while. And the reason why I do this is most of my projects run concurrently. So that means that right now I have about 10 projects that I'm working on. And what that means is that for some projects, they have been basically the same for a month. I haven't worked on them whatsoever, but I have listened to them. And then I just write things down, I come up with new ideas, and then an afternoon I just set aside all of my time and all of the other things that I have to do so that I can work on that track and really try to bring it up to a next level. But that is later on in the stages when the writing is already finished. But what that means is that I cannot actually show you how I can write a finalized breakdown because I just write an initial idea like we've seen today. And then it takes me many months of iterations to actually finalize the idea. So that means that I'm going to end the video here for today. I hope that you enjoyed it and that you learned something from this. Let me know if you did by leaving a like and make sure that you're subscribed while you're there. Another way to support the channel is to continue watching some of my videos. So there will be 2 up on the screen right now for you to choose from. So just pick one and enjoy, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.